Hi everyone, Mike here from Paceler. Today we're going to be taking a look at some of the more advanced features in the PRTG map designer. Now, if you're new to maps and dashboards and PRTG in general, then it's worth starting with our Introduction to Maps video, which you can find a link to below. Once you're comfortable with the basics of the map design and you're ready for some more advanced topics, then you can come back here and carry on where you left off. So, still here? Then that means you're ready to dive a bit deeper into maps in PRTG. We'll be taking a look at some techniques like layering of your map objects, how to use PRTG libraries in your map, and how to add some custom HTML. Okay, let's get started. So here we are in our PRTG web instance as always. Now let's hop to the Maps tab up here. And as you probably know, if you're familiar with maps, then this is where you can see all your maps that you've currently got set up. But for today, we're going to create a brand new map just so we can start with a blank canvas. So let's hover over the plus, click Add Map, and then let's give the map a name. So let's call it Advanced Map. That'll be fine. Clever. So now we want to think about what canvas size we're going to be using. So the default is 800 by 600. I think this is a little bit too small personally. So what we generally want to think about here is the target resolution and monitor that you're going to be displaying your map on. And what we find is a lot of users really like to put their maps up on a big screen up on the wall. So all the engineers can see the overall instance and troubleshoot a bit faster. So if you're dealing with a TV, I mean, I generally go for 1920 by 1080p. Let's go 1080p. That's a 16:9 aspect ratio, and it should be pretty suitable for whatever you're displaying on. So let's click Create. Okay, so now we've got our completely blank map designer canvas. Now, the first thing that I always do when I start a map, this is a setting that's not enabled by default, but I highly recommend you turn it on. Let's go to Settings, and if you look down here, we've got the Automatic Scaling option. Now, what that does is it's basically going to try, and PRTG will try and scale the map to whatever display you're going to be displaying it on. It usually works pretty well, so I suggest you turn that on and save that. Then hop back to the map designer there. Okay, so now we're ready to go. Let's start with something simple. Let's just add in a nice sunburst view, a nice sunburst object here. And by default, this is going to give us a view of just the device tree over all the route. It's going to show you everything in your PRTG instance. We can change that, and I'll show you how to do that more specifically later on. But obviously, when you're manipulating your objects, you drag them around the canvas like this. PRTG is going to want to snap to the grid, which is great. I think that's a really nice feature. So you can line things up. You can turn it off. So you just check that little tick box down here, and that now gives you a bit more freedom. But sometimes you want to be a little bit more specific with it. So let's have a look at the properties of these objects. All objects in the map designer have properties. Let's look on the top right hand corner here. You've got 5 different options here. We've got top, left, width, height, and layer. So top and left, pretty self-explanatory. The higher you drag it to the top, that's going to be here at the top, and the left is the left. If we reset these to 0, that's now going to anchor the whole thing to the top left of your canvas. So just so you know where you are when you're navigating it. The height, the width and the height, that just, if you have a specific pixel size you want to fit your object into, you can tailor it there. You can get quite granular with this, so you can literally add pixel by pixel if you just need that little bit extra control when you're lining up objects on top of each other. Because when you're adding lots of objects on a map, things can get a bit crazy, and it's important to have that control over it. One little shortcut I like to use is actually to use the arrow keys. You can go left and right and up and down. That gives you pixel by pixel control over it. Or you can hold down Shift, and that will give you 10 at each time. So you can get it move around a bit faster. But for now, let's leave it as it is. And what you'll also notice about the sunburst is one of its big features is you've got that big white space in the middle. What people like to do, which I think is a really nice idea, is to actually put some kind of image in there. which makes the sunburst immediately relevant to what you see in the middle. So, for instance, if it was a sunburst of a specific rack in your server room, you could put a picture of the rack in there. So when somebody does need to troubleshoot that, they know exactly what they're looking for. Can save a lot of time. So let's get an example of this. Let's pull in an image over here. We can now pull that right into the middle, and immediately you can see, I mean, not the greatest of images, but you can see how this can work. It's relevant to it, could be, and it's just a little bit more interesting. And then we can move that around specifically, like I talked with the arrow keys. Now, this brings us to our next point here. What if we wanted to use an image in there that's not included by default in PRTG? Very common. A lot of our users like to put their own company logo in the middle, which is a really nice way of customizing the map and making it look much more like your design. So how do we do that? If you'll notice, there is no upload button or browse for new file button in the map designer. So we need to go to the Windows level and actually put some files on the PRTG instance. So let's go and do that now. Okay, so here we are on the Windows level. This is where my core server is installed. And I want to go to, I'm on the root of the C drive. That's where I've got PRTG installed. I want to go to Program Files x86. I want to go to PRG Network Monitor. Then I want to go to the web root folder. And then we'll see here, there's a folder called Map Icons. So that's the one we want to go into. Then you see here we've got a whole bunch of folders. And in here, let's just show you an example. This is where all the icons for the default included stuff out of the box of the PRTG is stored. You could edit it if you wanted to, but I wouldn't recommend doing that. So what we can do is the two folders that you're interested in here, if you want to add your own custom imagery, is to go to icon sets 7 and 8. Either is fine. I'm going to use 7. So in there's not much in there at the moment. And all you need to do simply is I've got a pre-prepared logo in here. Let's just drop that in there. So now we've got our file in the icon set 7 folder. Let's go back to our map on our PRTG instance. And we want to refresh the files now. So the core server is going to look for new files. And this is quite a useful feature anyway if you're working with lookups or scripts or custom images. Sometimes you need to get the core server to refresh its cache. So it's going to find those new files. So let's go to Setup, System Administration, Administrative Tools. There's lots of really useful stuff in here. Again, not specific to maps. You can restart the core server here, but the one I'm looking for here is the load lookup files, load lookups and file lists. So let's click Go. It's going to think about it. Done. Okay, so let's go back to our map, into our advanced map. Okay, and now we should see we've got a load of icons that were there already, but now we have icon set 9. I don't know why it's called icon set 9, just is, but if you open up that, you've got the logo that you just uploaded. So let's drag that onto our canvas and plonk it in the middle of our sunburst. Let's line it up how we want it. Now, gold star for who can see the problem here. Because we're working with a flat JPEG file, there's no layering there, it's not a PNG. Obviously the map is not taking into account that it's a square. So how do we fix that? Now this brings me to my next topic, really smoothly, I think you'll agree, layering. So layering is a really, really important feature that you want to get comfortable with in maps. So if you've used any kind of photo editing software, video editing software, you'll be familiar with the concept of layers. They build on top of each other, and the one on the top is the one you see, and the stuff underneath it gets buried underneath it. Same principle in the map designer. So we want to mess about with the layers. So let's go back to our properties finder here. We can see the final field on the right hand side is layer. Now each object is automatically assigned a layer in the PRTG map designer. The first object we pulled in is just given layer 1. The new logo has got layer 2. So the higher the layer, the more dominant it is. So at the moment, the Pacer logo is sitting on top of the sunburst view. So we want to change that up. So let's select the sunburst view. And just for the purposes of this, it just needs to be higher than the object that you want it to be on top of. So I'm just going to call it 3. Let's say save. There we go. And immediately that solved our problem. That looks much better now. Fits in there really nicely. It's a simple thing, but it really does make all the difference in your more advanced maps. Just giving it a little bit of personalization and customization makes a real difference, I think. Okay, so now we've got our layers looking better and looking nicer. We can go even deeper here because it's one thing adding your custom objects, but we can actually do something more with something called custom map objects. Now, what's a custom map object? Good question. This is where PRTG can pull in some HTML, some code, and it can really apply some really great looking customization to your map on a different level to just having some custom images. It's I have to say this, it's not officially supported by Paceler. However, that doesn't mean you can't do it. And we do have a couple of nice KB articles that I'll put in the comments below that show you how to do this. But what would be really useful is for you to actually see how we can add custom map objects to our map. So that's what we're going to do now. One of the most popular custom map objects that are available, and one of the things that we get asked for the most, is how to use libraries in your map. Now, libraries, if you're not familiar with libraries, I highly recommend you go and look at one of our videos on libraries because they are really useful in segmenting your monitoring. If you want to have specific users being able to access certain things, to silo stuff, to keep a bit more control, to be a bit more on top of organizing your device tree, libraries are a really useful thing to use. But you'll probably notice if you work with libraries that you can't just drag and drop a library from the device tree because libraries don't live in the device tree. So how do we apply a library to, say, for instance, a sunburst object? Well, good job you asked, because I'm about to show you how. So for this, the first thing you want to do is go to the KB article that you'll find linked below, grab the HTML code that you will find there. Then you want to go into your PRTG installation, your core server. So we're back in the map icons folder where we left it. So let's just hop back another level, and this time you're looking for the map objects folder. Okay, and in here you're going to find all the HTML files that are being used for all the default map objects. I would strongly recommend you don't edit any of those. If you want to play around with some of them, you can just duplicate them. And certainly don't try this on any production servers that you've got going. I would practice a bit, maybe on, spin up a free trial and give it a try there. But when you're ready, when you're comfortable with it, we want to create a HTML file with the code that's in the KB. So make a new file, call it something relevant, and it will look a little something like this. So here's the HTML that you can get from the KB. Then when that file's ready, you literally just want to make sure that's in this map objects folder. So there you go, I've called it sunburstlibrary.htm. Then let's go back to our PRTG web interface. And then as before, we just want to refresh the cache so the PRTG core server knows to look for this new file. So let's go to administrative tools like before, load lookups and file lists. Sometimes this doesn't always work. You might need to restart the core server, in which case you can just use that. But obviously do that when your monitoring isn't going to be affected, when it's convenient with you. So let's go back to our advanced map, to our map designer, and yes, as if by magic, we've now got a custom map objects field here, and inside we can see our new custom map object that we added. It's the library sunburst. So what I'm going to do, let's delete our old boring sunburst, and let's pull in our new library sunburst. Okay, so by default, as the previous sunburst, this is just going to reference the root of your device tree. But we obviously want to change that. So there's two important points to make here regarding libraries. So obviously be familiar with libraries, but let's go and have a look at our libraries, because what this map object wants to do in the HTML code, it's going to be looking for an object ID. So first of all, if you don't know what's an object ID, every object in PRTG has an ID number, and you can reference that for lots of different things. Sensors have ID numbers. Libraries have ID numbers, and this is what we need so that this library object knows what library that we want to actually show. So where do we find that? Let's go and have a look. So it's in libraries, so hover over libraries, and I cunningly have a library set up here already. Let's go to the Sunburst library, and what you're looking for is in the top right hand corner of the web interface here where it says ID number. Okay, so this number here, 2519, we need to remember that. That's the number that we need. So 2519. So now we're going to go back to the map, into advanced map. Okay. Let's just resize this so it's looking how we want it. So make sure you've got your Sunburst object selected. Then go to this little section here, HTML before, and loop it in 2519. Easy as that. Super simple. Click save, and there we go. So I've got this library set up for my virtual machines that I want to monitor, and it's super simple, but it's so effective and so powerful to be able to have libraries on your map, because you can really get a lot more control over your monitoring here. There are lots of other custom map objects available. Like I said, officially, we don't support them, but that doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's all there for you to use and to experiment with it. As I said, just be a little bit careful when you're using production environments. But you can really customize your map in some quite powerful ways. Okay, so last thing I want to show you now. One thing that the map designer isn't great at is labeling. The labels are not really very intuitive. It just comes straight for the device name, and there is no native way to actually just add some text to your map. It would be really nice, but the way to do it, let's look at how to do it. Right down the bottom here. Now, I would say this is possibly the most powerful feature that we've got in the map designer, the custom HTML object. Now, this literally lets you put in any HTML that you want. Couple of exceptions. Testing is required, but you can really get quite creative with this. I've seen some really cool things that some of our users have done, but right now my HTML is not good by any means, so I'm going to keep it super simple just to show you how this works in principle. So what I want to do, as I mentioned, labeling is not great in maps. I'd like to have a little bit of a label on my Sunburst here with my library, just telling everybody what it's actually looking at. So let's drag in my custom HTML object, and I'm just going to add a H1 tag. So let's do H1 Mike's awesome VMs, and then let's close that. Oops, that's my limit for HTML. Okay, and let's do save. Yay, it worked. And then let's plonk that right in the middle there like that. It's a little bit too big, but we could just resize like that. Anyway, you get the idea. What that now, the difference that it makes, just so you know what you're looking at, with some custom imagery and some other HTML, you could really make this look really cool if you wanted to. So finally, one little extra note to add. iframes, you can use iframes in the map designer, and quite handily, it is actually available. If you click on the get HTML code, and right here, we've got the iframe code that you can just copy and paste. It doesn't work with everything HTTPS. It's a bit funny about, but there are ways around it. If you know what you're doing, all you would do there is you would just add in your custom HTML element, and then you'd paste in the code, and then you've got a map within a map. Quite useful sometimes to have maps showing other maps that you want to show. So that's an option if you need it. Quite useful. Okay, so that gives you a few specific examples of some of the more advanced features available in the PRTG map designer. Using these techniques, you should be well on the way to creating some really customized and unique dashboards that are completely tailored to your organization and network layout. If you've remotely enjoyed this tutorial or found it useful in any way whatsoever, just give us a like and subscribe below, and I'll see you next time.